The suspension of UNICEF's activities in Nigeria's northeast and the reversal of that suspension shortly after highlights the strained relations international NGOs sometimes have with the Nigerian state. Well, a similar action was taken by the Nigerian government against British charity Mary Stopes International barely a month before. And in spite of the humanitarian services rendered by international NGOs, particularly in conflict zones, their guiding principle of neutrality oftentimes pits them against their host country. C4 Nessian reports.
NGOs working in Africa face unique challenges not seen in other parts of the world. A breakdown of law and order, famine, epidemics and conflicts that undermine the safety of life and property. According to Relief Web, an online service of the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, 313 aid workers were victims of major attacks in 2017. 139 were killed, while 102 were wounded. 721 were kidnapped.
When we talk about the Middle Belt, when we talk about the North and the South.
The International Committee of the Red Cross is among international aid organizations whose workers were killed in 2018 after being abducted by Boko Haram.
Because Nigeria is one of our operations, it's the second largest in Africa that we have after South Sudan. And it's very complex because it has the different dynamics of conflict and violence.
But the activities of international NGOs often pit them against the states. In November, the Nigerian government ordered the closure of 2 centers run by British charity Mary Stopes. The government of Burundi in October suspended the activities of all international NGOs operating in the country, a decision Amnesty International described as sweeping and arbitrary. In Nigeria, the recent suspension of UNICEF's activities in the northeast and the reversal of that suspension shortly after raises questions over the strength of relations between both parties.
We've had a lot of these accusations from people who have been uncomfortable with the international organizations in the Northeast. So it's generally been a lot of acrimony because some people feel they are not benefiting from the international organizations at the grassroots level.
In August 2017, Nigerian army troops invaded the UN Red Roof camp in Maiduguri, an operation which highlighted the military suspicion that international aid agencies may have been aiding insurgents.
There are issues the military needs to sort out. It needs to sort out those issues properly in an accepted manner, in a standardized manner.
The principle of impartiality and neutrality, which NGOs subscribe to, often bring them in dispute with government security forces. Zubair Ahmed retired as a colonel of the Nigerian army.
We have to go through, because we've experienced it once, we have to go through the process.
Drawing from his experience serving in ECOMOG in Liberia and Sierra Leone, he stresses the need for government and aid agencies to agree on the rules of engagement and stick to it.
We had similar problem with the NGOs, international NGOs. There is this we call Doctors Without Border, that was in Liberia, and who are in the habit of supplying food to the, the rebels, the MPFL, to the extent that the commander, the first commander then, had to come to insist that we're going to have what is called corridor of tranquility.
There are calls for humanitarian workers and the communities in which they work to be respected.
We want that the armed actors respect the communities, respect the civilian population, because that is the basis of everything. And by this respect, they also respect the humanitarian workers that come and provide support.
While the humanitarian situation in the Northeast continues to require attention, there are concerns that in servicing the needs, security should not be undermined. C4 Nessian, TVC News, Abuja.